What is up, bros and broettes? I'm Inkslasher, and today we're just going to be talking a little bit about Call of Duty World War II, specifically 5 problems that I have with the game. And there's 2 reasons why I want to talk about these things. The first of which is they may actually be able to fix some of them in-game and make Call of Duty World War II a little bit better. The second is for future Call of Duty games, specifically Black Ops 4. I really think a couple of the things I'm going to talk about in this video are things that don't only need to be addressed in Call of Duty World War II, but in Call of Duty as a whole as a game. And you'll kind of see what those things are as I get to them, but the basic premise of this video is just looking at ways of improving Call of Duty. I don't really love the channels that just bash on Call of Duty in every single video. I get that not everyone loves the game, but I think there's a time and a place to try to make it better, and hopefully this video is exactly that. Now, before I get into my 5 problems with the game, I would really love to hear what you guys think, what your big problems with the game are. I hear so frequently people say the game is boring, the game is dull, but why do you think that? Why is the game boring? Why is it dull? Why aren't you playing it anymore? I think that's a super important to actually put out there and state, because that way developers can actually look at that, not just for Call of Duty, but for other first-person shooter or even third-person shooter games, and kind of get an idea of why people are not playing games and other reasons why people are sticking around and actually playing the games. But now that I got that out of the way, let me know what you think in the comments. Let's get into my 5 things. Now, the first thing I'm going to talk about is specifically to do with Call of Duty World War II, and that is the division system. Now, I'm not going to harp on this one for too long, because I think a million people have talked about this before, but the division system is simply inferior to the Pick 10 system. I know there's probably a couple of you out there who are just going to disagree with that, but I think it's pretty strongly supported that the Pick 10 system is kind of the best creative class system that really Call of Duty has ever had. The only other system that I think really compares to it is actually the system they had in Call of Duty Ghosts, where different score streak packages were linked to that class setup, and I have heard some pretty good arguments to say bring that in with the Pick 10 system. Don't take away part of the Pick 10 for the score streaks, but just have them related to the class, so that way you can have different classes linked with different kill streaks. But I think it's pretty widely accepted that the Pick 10 system is what people want, and as we already know in Black Ops 4, it's pretty strongly supported, or at least Treyarch has put it out there, that that's what we're going to be seeing in Black Ops 4, which, if you ask me, is pretty damn good. I'm glad that they're bringing that back. So I've stated that I like the Pick 10 system better than the division system, but why? Well, the main reason is with the Pick 10 system, you can make your class exactly how you want it. You can be as creative as you want with your class, whereas with the division system, it kind of restrains that. And with the most recent patch, the changes to the division, they really have fixed that a lot, but it's still not as good as the Pick 10 system would have been in the game, if you ask me. So the first thing was the division system. The second thing directly has to do with the most recent update of the division system, and that is that in World War II, there is a ton of grenade spam now. And this is simply because of the lack of the Pick 10 system. Basically, with the most recent update, they made it so with every single class, no matter what division, no matter what you are using on that class, no matter how many attachments, you have 1 lethal and 1 tactical grenade. If you're using the Expeditionary Division, you get 2 lethals and 2 tacticals. What this means is everyone has grenades at their disposal, which means they are flying across the map like crazy. And I think this was an inherent mistake in doing so, because if we look back at previous games like Call of Duty Black Ops 3, most people didn't even run grenades on their class so that they could use more attachments, use a secondary weapon, or use more perks. But with the lack of the Pick 10 system, everyone is using grenades, and they are so abundant. Now, I will say with the most recent update, they did nerf grenades and tacticals a little bit, making them do less damage, but I think there is just such an overabundant amount of them flying across the map that it's just too much, and I think something needs to be done about that. And this links into another thing. I think the health regeneration is a little bit too slow in Call of Duty World War II. Now, I have no evidence whatsoever to support this other than my feel, but I feel like health regen is slower in World War II than it was, let's say, in Black Ops 3. I feel like in Black Ops 3, my health would regen in like 2 to 3 seconds, whereas in World War II, it almost feels like 5 to 10 seconds it takes for me to get all my health back. It just feels a little slow. And I feel like that could be a way of countering the grenades, because one of my problems is I'll be in a building, a grenade will hit me, it'll do maybe half my health of damage, and then 5 seconds later, someone else will throw a grenade in the same building, and I'll only have half health to absorb that second grenade. So I think that's another thing that could be addressed as well, but like I said, I really have no evidence to support the health regen thing. That's simply based off of my feel. So now that we've discussed those two things, I'd like to discuss two things that affect Call of Duty as a whole, not just Call of Duty World War II, and it's the reward system the game has. In short, it is terrible. Call of Duty's reward system used to be the best a first-person or even a shooter game could offer, but I would say within the last 3 to 5 Call of Duty games, that has just gone out the window. And what do I mean by this? Basically, there's two different types of reward system in games: short-term rewards and long-term rewards. I think we should start with the long-term rewards because those are a lot easier to look at. The long-term rewards in Call of Duty have always been kind of the same thing: leveling up, hitting that top level, completing challenges. That's kind of been the all-in-all way of Call of Duty keeping you in the game. And to keep it short, the reward system for this in Call of Duty just isn't good. There's something in Call of Duty called Master Prestige. When you get to the top prestige, 10th prestige in the game, you then have 1,000 levels you can go through, but really there's no reward for doing that whatsoever. There's no reason or drive for me to actually do that. And don't get me wrong, this isn't something that's just wrong with Call of Duty World War II. This has been wrong with almost every Call of Duty game. They never really implement a reason to level up all the way, to complete all of the challenges. I think Black Ops 3 did a little bit better of a job with this, with the hero gear for specialists, with the Dark Matter camo, and other Dark Ops challenges, but really, it's still not great. They're not rewarding you enough for playing their game for upwards of 10 days, because remember, to at least hit Master Prestige, that's probably how long it's going to take you, if not way longer. So there needs to be a better reason for people to get there, to get to the top level, that maybe there needs to be something in particular they can do in-game. I really don't think giving them certain weapon variants or skins is a good enough reason to hit the top level. I think there needs to be something much better than that, and I'm not really sure what that is. If you have any ideas, let me know what you think down in the comments. But I think the bigger problem in Call of Duty isn't the long-term reward system, it's actually the short-term reward system. And this is the big hook, line, and sinker for every video game, not just Call of Duty. In fact, a short-term reward system actually explains so many things in human behavior. It explains addiction, it explains why people like sugary foods, it explains that why Candy Crush is so popular, even though I don't really believe it's that great of a game, but that's a side point. And all it has to do with is the big D. And no, I know what you're thinking, it's not that, it's dopamine. Basically, when something good happens to you, your brain releases dopamine. And dopamine is a feel-good drug, it makes you feel good. And various things in video games, in foods like sugar, release dopamine and make you want more of that thing. And the big problem with Call of Duty is that there's nothing in the game that makes your brain release the dopamine. A huge example of this is Fortnite. There's a reason why when people play Fortnite, they say, oh, I'm just going to hop on and play one game. They get 3 kills and then die, and they'll, oh no, just one more, just one more, just one more. There's a reason for that. Everyone who's playing Fortnite is chasing after the win. Everyone wants to win, and that's the dopamine rush. Now, for people, it doesn't happen for 100 games, for 200 games. Some people it happens every 3rd game, but for many people, it's not very often. So why does it keep people playing? It's because when you do win, it's a giant dopamine rush. It's a huge one. You feel super good, and that ties you over for a longer period of time. So with this dopamine rush, there's going to be 2 types of it. There's going to be the short-term dopamine rush and long-term. Fortnite hits that long-term perfectly. It gives you one large dopamine rush that lasts you a longer period of time. The thing that Call of Duty and Candy Crush and other games have tapped into for a longer period of time is that short-term dopamine rush. And the main way Call of Duty has done it in the past is with score streaks. There's something that you can work forward to that aren't too hard to get, that when you do, makes you feel really, really good about yourself. Something like the tactical nuke in Modern Warfare 2 was a perfect example of this. It wasn't too difficult to get. If you got other score streaks, it was going to help you a ton, and it made you think that every single game you could play, you could possibly get that nuke. It kept people playing. And really, since Modern Warfare 2, there hasn't been something really like that. In my opinion, it's the reason why Modern Warfare 2 to this date is still so popular. It's that tactical nuke. It's something people could work for that's completely obtainable for every single player that people still have to work for and try to get every single real game. The problem with recent Call of Duties is they've introduced things like Chemstrike, V2 missiles in World War II that not all players can get. I know a lot of people like to brag, oh, I got a V2 missile, but I know YouTubers who can't even get V2 missiles. I would say less than 5% of players who play the game have gotten V2 missiles, and I'm sure someone could look at stats and figure that out, but it's a very rare thing. In fact, I'm the only person I have played with who's actually got one. Not one lobby I've been in, someone has gotten a V2 missile against me. So it really shows you how rare it actually is. And I think by implementing something more like a tactical nuke or something that you could work forward to, like a victory in Battle Royale games, in Call of Duty, not necessarily a Battle Royale thing, but something like that is what Call of Duty needs. Honestly, I know not everyone agrees with this, but something like a tactical nuke for Modern Warfare 2 is something I think could really help the series. But in recent Call of Duty games, they've actually moved away from this. They've taken away the reward system of score streaks and implemented the reward system of supply drops. And it's not the same dopamine hit because the supply drops have nothing to do with the actual gameplay. Whereas if we look at something like Fortnite, the entire dopamine hit means you are the best player playing. You are the best person in that game at that type of gameplay. And this is what Call of Duty is missing. Now, don't get me wrong, I also enjoy the grind of trying to unlock the new weapons, trying to grind out, get armory credits, unlock the new weapons. I actually do like that, but it has really nothing to do with the gameplay, and that's really what I want to see out of future Call of Duty games. And speaking of kill streaks, the last thing I have to talk about is Requisitions. You can see this coming a mile away, and the reason why I saved it to last is because recently they said they are looking into doing something about this. And basically what Requisitions is, it's a perk that makes it so your kill streaks or score streaks don't reset after you die. It makes it so they're incredibly easy to get, and if you're at all a decent player, you can get the 3 highest score streaks in every single game you play. And if you ask me, that completely takes away the drive I want to actually go and get those kill streaks if I can just literally get them in the first 3 minutes of a team deathmatch game every single time because I'm using the Requisitions perk. Something needs to be done about that. I think they're looking into it. If you ask me, the best thing to do with it is just take it out of the game. That is why care packages are in the game. It's for the worst players can still get those good score streaks. It's just a matter of chance. That's what I think should be done. That's my opinion. You can let me know what you think down in the comments. But all in all, I think the 2 biggest things is Call of Duty needs to work on that long-term reward system and short-term reward system. Because if you ask me, that is the biggest problem Call of Duty is having to date. And I've seen a lot of other YouTubers also agree with that. So I know that was quite a rant. I went on for quite a while talking about dopamine, and I know a lot of you may not have been interested in that, but I hope I was able to make it interesting for you. I hope I was able to make it so you could understand what I was trying to get at. So let me know if you agree with me, disagree with me down in the comments. If you like what I had to say, it'd be awesome if you could hit that like button. Also, if you're new to the channel and like what you see, you can always hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on all my videos. But guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace out.
We are reaching for the stars, but we're making this too hard.